You're listening to the Limitless Leadership podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
All right, leaders, whether you're running a shop, leading a team, or leveling up in your career, you know details matter. And if you're like me, that includes keeping your beard on point. That's why I trust the Bearded Brotherhood. Their beard oils, beard balms, and mustache waxes, among other, are made with all natural ingredients, no junk, no shortcuts, just top-tier quality that keeps my beard looking sharp and feeling great. And let's talk scents. Whether it's their best-selling Woodsman or my personal favorite, Lone Stranger, the Bearded Brotherhood keeps me smelling fresh and my beard stays soft all day. If you take your beard game seriously, this is the stuff that you need. And because you're part of the Limitless Leadership podcast family, I've got a deal for you. Just visit thebeardedbrotherhood.co/lead15 to grab your favorite products and get 15% off in the process, because a great leader deserves a great beard. Now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Limitless Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Josh Parnell. And before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you need to on social media to help us reach people and build leaders. And not just leaders, but limitless leaders. And I say that for a reason. It's because our guest today is a best-selling author. He is a limitless speaker. He's a mindset coach. And you might be identifying some correlation here. Our guest today is a limitless leadership coach, but not with my company, his own company, Mr. Rick Torrison. Rick, thanks for being here.
Man, Josh, I'm excited to be with you, man, especially because of the synergy in our lives and proximity in Houston, Texas.
That's right.
You know, so you're on one side of the city, I'm on the other side of the city. So between us, we can take Houston, man.
That's right. Yeah, Rick and I do share a lot of similarities. We recently got connected through a mutual friend because that mutual friend recognized there's so many similarities. Both of us operate under the name Limitless Leadership. And Rick has a great, in fact, best-selling book called Born Limitless. But Rick is also a fellow Houstonian. So the world is incredibly small, and it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And I'm excited to get into this today's episode.
Yeah, me too, man. Looking forward to it. I'm honored to be here with you.
Well, Rick, man, if you would go ahead and share with the audience, you know, for our listening audience, most of them are in the automotive repair industry, but we do like to have guests come in and share with the audience leadership skills, tactics, principles, ideas, and concepts. And I know you are full of them because we talked, you and I, connected last week and met for a good hour or so. And I was very impressed with the information that you shared with me. But if you would share with us who you are, what you do, how you do it, all the things we need to know about Mr. Rick Torrison.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, let me give you the condensed version, just a little bit about me and my journey. So I've been in Houston for 37 years. I chased a girl down here from the Midwest. I'm originally from Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, went to school in Iowa, met this girl in Indianapolis, Indiana. She intrigued me, provoked me, challenged me, frustrated me. And she was living in Houston, Texas. And I said, I got to go figure this thing out. Yeah. And so I chased her down here and been here for 37 years. We've been married for 34 of those, and got two amazing adopted kids. And I say adopted people. Why do you qualify it? Because there's a lot of people who either have adopted, are adopting, or are thinking about it. And that's one of my ministries, my wife and I, is just to help speak life into people who are considering that. So they're 30 and 26 years old. So they are grown. At least by age, man. I'm going to. Their age says that they're grown. Yeah. But they're amazing. They're amazing kids, and so I'm really blessed. And I have been a educator. That's how I got down here. I was a pastor and church planter for 15 years. So I actually was in ministry. That's a whole nother podcast story we could talk about. A lot of leadership stuff there, okay? And then went from that, still really ministries at the heart of who I am as a follower, a believer. It drives all that I do. It actually drove my book, and how I coach, how I lead, how I do training is all built and foundational on my faith. of who I am and how I choose to show up, what drives me. And then I started a leadership company really about 10, 15 years ago, I guess. My children, my son especially, they went through some real challenging times, which caused our family to have to refocus and get them through some of the teenage years, a lot of identity issues, anger, frustration, just trying to work out life. And through that period, we had to make some adjustments in our lives. From ministry, I stepped away from things. I had a commercial cleaning company and a coffee shop, and we just said, hey, our kids are number one. So how do we prioritize their life and their future? Made some changes there. So I was out of the workforce for about 10 years, just helping my kids go through. Since I was a teacher, we homeschooled for a little bit just to get them stable. Worked through all of that. But then when they got healthy and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Right? What does life look like now? And as I was praying through that and working through that, I had some nonprofits that I'd started to help the business community and the faith community come together. And man, I just had a lot of people coming up to me and asking me questions about their business, their life, their ministry, their church, and struggles that they were having. I guess I just had a sign that said, I can help or something on my forehead. And I lived in coffee shops a lot. So people would overhear conversations and people would just start sitting down in front of me, right? And just start asking questions, people I knew and people I didn't know. And this was while I was going, what should I be doing? One guy finally asked me, and this is in Pearland, Texas. And actually it was, a friend of mine who is the owner of a Christian Brothers, which I know is your background.
Oh, yeah, that's
right. So he was in that coffee shop. That's where I met him. He was one of the guys that sat down and talked to me 12, 13 years ago. I don't think he's in the Christian Brothers stuff anymore, but that's where we first met. And but this guy was like the janitor in this coffee shop. He was changing lights and dusting, cleaning, fixing things. And he was always there. Well, he came down and sat down with me one day and said, hey, man, do you mind if I talk to you a little bit? I said, no, let's talk. I said, okay. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you do? I said, he said, well, I own this place. And I was like, what? It's like, because he's never behind the bar. He was never working the coffee shop. He actually was a successful businessman in oil and gas, had multiple oil and gas companies and things that he was doing around Houston and around the US. But he felt like the Lord had said, buy a coffee shop. So he bought the coffee shop, but he had no idea what he was doing in that space. And it was not doing well. And he was really struggling. He said, hey, I've got some questions. You talk to a lot of people. Do you think you could help me, coach me with my business? And my first response, swear to goodness, and I don't have a coaching business. I've never coached anyone officially, was absolutely. I'd love to coach you. If he only knew at that point, right? And he said, well, great. What would that look like? And I said, well, listen, let me write a proposal up. Let's talk a little bit. Let me get some information. So I get off. He leaves. I get online. I'm Googling coaching, contracts, pricing, structure. It's stuff I'd done my whole life. So it wasn't anything new, but I hadn't put a business context to it, right? It was who I was and who I am. And so anyways, so that was my first coaching client. And then from there, I just started working with chambers and got connected with John Maxwell and some other organizations, got some certifications, and just started digging into leadership development and coaching and training, communication training, team training, and then cultural training for companies, helping them reestablish their culture, their values, and their vision. So anyways, that's my journey. And then this limitless side, I wasn't talking about limitless leadership 15 years ago. But this really hit me about 8 years ago when I was really thinking about this idea of leadership and what is it, right? If you Google leadership, and you might have done this before, Josh, if you just Google it, you'll get like 6 billion hits. I mean, literally 6 billion and something hits on the word leadership. It is the most searched for, talked about word out there, but it's the most confusing. People don't share definitions. We all have an idea of leadership that is different. And so we all have expectations on people on what it looks like to be a good leader, a limitless leader, a transformational leader, a servant leader. But we don't have a shared definition within organizations and companies. So we're all judging each other based on our experiences of leaders that really is unfair to the people because there's not an understanding of that word. And so I started really pressing into what does leadership mean? What does that word mean to me? What does it look like? What are the characteristics? And I realized that leadership wasn't first about what you do, a position, title, or paycheck, right? It's really about who you are. It's how you choose to show up in the world.
Okay.
right? At its core, and it's a neutral term. Hitler was a great leader, right?
Yeah.
But he led people towards destruction and horrendous things, but he moved and influenced people towards movement. And I started thinking about that word and so and then my faith started coming in. It's like, well, what does that look like from a faith perspective? And how have we settled for something less than what we were called to be? And so I see leadership as how you show up in the world, not a title or a position in organization. And if it's how you show up and if it's about influence, then every single human is a leader because we're all influencing people, right? The question is, are we influencing them to life or death, health or decay?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's a lot, but that's kind of my journey. And that what got me down this road of really looking at this idea of leadership and asking some different questions.
Rick, first, thanks for sharing all of that, man. I love what you just shared. I could not agree more about the fact that every person is a leader. Something I share in my own leadership coaching and training is that everyone has their own individual, unique perspective that is not shared by anyone, which makes them one of one. And because of that perspective, that makes you influential. You can either infect or you can affect. And like, for example, Hitler's example, right? So you can either infect or you can affect. And we know that a good leader is going to affect change. I like the fact that you identify the fact that, yes, everyone is a leader. It's not a position. It's not a title. It's truly a skill set. And we are born limitless. That's the name of your book. Talk to us about your book, why the name Born Limitless, and tell us about your book in general.
Yeah, man, that's there's so much to that. I wrote a book, started writing about 3 years ago, and ended up getting a writing coach to help me and connected with some people. And the book really is a piece of my coaching construct. It deals with one portion of that I really think is the most significant part when we're dealing with coaching, and it's really about mindset. And so I created this framework. And so the book is this understanding that I believe my faith compels me. And it doesn't matter what other people believe. I know you've got probably people on here that are believers and people that aren't. And that's all great. It's okay, right? I'm good with that. I don't impose that on anyone, but I let people know this is what informs me. It's the lens I view humans through. And that lens tells me that every human has greatness within them, has limitless potential within them, things that you talk about, right? This unleashing the true potential, that limitless results that are there. But we first got to believe that's true. If I don't believe it, I'll never achieve it, right? And it sounds like a corny line, but it's so true. And so I believe in everyone is greatness. I believe everyone was created for more. They were born limitless, not more stuff and things, but more influence and impact. The challenge is I believe that we have settled for something less than we were born and created for. And we don't even know it.
That's right.
Because we've put limitations in our belief system. There are ceilings in our lives, right? And so here, the framework in the book that I unpack and talk about this idea of being born limitless and getting people to first believe that it's possible. Like, I just want to challenge you that, can you believe the potential of being born limitless? Would you even question it? If you'll be open to explore that, then man, we can go a long ways, right? And so I need you to at least embrace the idea of this and then let us go on a journey. And so the challenge is, and what I present in the book is a lot of personal stories. It's funny, the book actually made a bestseller list. That sounds really cool, right? I was like, yes. So I'm going to let your listeners in on a secret. Books don't make bestseller lists because they're good books. In fact, most books that make bestseller lists hit the bestseller list before anyone has ever read the book. It's all about sales of a book in a window of time. It's not about the quality of the book or the message.
Yeah, that's right.
Which for new authors, authors who have been out there, they have that reputation. But like me, my first book, getting on the bestseller list, this must be a great book. I go, well, I don't know. I just got a lot of people to buy a lot of books, which
awesome.
got me on the bestseller list. So anyways, I think there's good content, good information, good stories. The jury's still out on, is it a good read, a good book? I think it is, but
it's a good book. I'll say it, Rick. It's a good book. Like, yeah, great job on it.
I appreciate that. It's very transparent, right? I told some real personal stories about my own journey through this. And real quickly, the framework in there is this. This is what I believe. I believe that all of the outcomes that we get in our lives, the fruit of our life, good or bad, is a result of the actions that we take, the behaviors. Every behavior is then a result of a belief, We can't act in a way that we don't believe. We can try to, but we can't sustain it. Every belief comes from how we interpret experiences in our life. So when an experience happens, we define it, interpret it, have a perception of it, that experience. That perception of that experience becomes what we start thinking about it and how we then perceive and define the people and world around us and even ourselves. That's our beliefs. Our beliefs then drive every action. Every action leads to a result.
Yes. Yep.
If we want to change our results, typically what we do in the process is we change what? We change our behaviors, right? Behavior modification. We do new processes. We go, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to get up earlier. I'm going to change a behavior because I need a different result. Really important. You can't get new results without changing behaviors. But the problem is, and most of your listeners will probably relate to this, is how many times have you changed a behavior to get a new result and found yourself a week, 6 weeks, 6 months later back in the same place because you couldn't sustain the behavior change?
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Right? We do it a lot. And so my question, we go, why is that? Well, that's because we never address the belief that drives the behavior. Every behavior, it's not, it's science. It's how we're wired. Every behavior, every action we do is because we believe something to be true. They're tied together. They do not separate, right? And so that means if I want to change a behavior sustainably, transformatively, I have to understand the belief behind it. And if I don't address and change that belief, I will never sustainable change the behavior to get new outcomes. Does that make sense? And so we've got to deal with the beliefs. And to deal with the beliefs, real quickly, I have to go one step further, go, where did I take this belief on? Well, it's how I interpreted an experience. Real quick, I was abused at 6 years old by a babysitter, right? And I can say that real easy because it's part of my conversation, my story, but it was traumatic. No one to talk about it with. So at 6, 7 years old, I am interpreting that experience. Why is it happening? I must be bad. I must deserve it. All women want to hurt me. I'm not valuable. I'm not worthy to be loved. So I built a belief system in that moment, not consciously, but unconsciously. That belief became the lenses by which I viewed life, people, relationships, especially women. So from that moment on, throughout my life, I am now acting in a way that supports that belief that I'm not loved, I'm not worthy, women want to hurt me, right? And I'm a mistake. So think about those beliefs and what kind of behaviors those are going to drive.
Sure.
So those drew my behaviors for over 25 years before I finally realized what was happening. I had tried to change my behaviors forever, but I didn't realize it was the belief I had that came from a lie that I had believed.
Yeah. Rick, there is
I had
so
to
much.
reset the lie. So anyways, that's a lot of information.
No, it's great though.
The book is about that process and helps us understand we all have limiting beliefs somewhere in our lives that create a ceiling that cause us to settle for believing something less than we were born and created for. And here's the last thing I'll say, and I'll let however you want to do this with that, is we live that way for so long. My 25 years, that living that way, it became normal. I just called it normal. I just said, hey, this is how my life is. And so part of what I do with my coaching is I ask people, what if the normal you're living in isn't actually your normal? What if you've settled for something less than? Can you at least contemplate that? And if they can, then the coaching can go anywhere. But they've got to challenge their normal to reframe their story and make new declarations to get different results. So anyway, again, a lot of information, but that's the heart of the book.
Rick, so much to unpack. I mean, this is, and there's a lot more synergy that we actually share than I realized. Something I share is something very similar to the framework that you just laid out, which is our thoughts dictate feelings, our feelings dictate actions, and our actions dictate results. And one of the greatest mistakes any of us can make is assuming all of our thoughts are actually true. So let's just say that we're believing something, and we will always find evidence in the things that we believe. Yes. Good, bad, or indifferent, right? So we're going to find evidence that supports a potentially limiting belief. I'll ask you, I actually cut you off earlier, but you said something about resetting the lie. How do you reset the lie?
So I reframe the narrative, right? So I have to identify the beliefs that the lie I took on. I can't, I'm not, I'll never, I won't. You'll find it in your language. right? And I reframe that with I can, I will, or I am. So I've got to reset the story. So I have to tell myself a new story from the trauma isn't going away. It was real.
Yeah.
What I believed from it was a lie. I associated a negativity, so I had to replace it.
Let's hang on that for a second, because I think what you just said is very key. So say that again. The trauma that you experienced is real.
Is real. It happened. It's not going away. That is an actual truth. How I told the story about it to myself, the narrative I created around it that I told myself were actually lies. I can't, I'm not, all those things. I said, it must be me.
Yeah. That's so good. So, okay, shop owners, if you're listening, here's what I want to ask you to think about. You are identifying opportunity areas in your business, and you're choosing to tell yourself, we can't, we won't, we shouldn't. You might be finding evidence that supports a limiting belief that you can't achieve X, Y, or Z this year. But again, we're always going to find evidence in the things we believe. What you might be telling yourself is backed in limiting beliefs. What I like to say is it's these labels that we put on ourselves. The label you put on yourself, it creates a limitation. And until we know how to break free from those limitations, we're going to keep on living in that circle. If you're listening to this episode, I'm going to encourage you to watch on YouTube at The Bearded Leader, and you can see me making this circle with my hands. We live in this circle. We don't know how to break free from it. And one of my favorite quotes comes from a poet by the name of NQ. And he says, defining myself is like confining myself. So I undefined myself to find myself. So think about this, defining myself. Think about the trauma that you experienced. Think about the real situation that any of these listeners have experienced in their life. Defining myself. It's like confining myself. So we reset the lie. We reframed what we believe, and we undefined ourself to find ourself. The challenge is how.
I love that. I would tell all of your shopping. So here's what I would encourage them with what he said. One, reach out to Josh. If you are struggling with a limiting belief or saying, I can't do that, we can't open another, I can't get another one, I can't expand, or I can't do this, or I can't deal with these cars. The minute you hear yourself saying you can't, or you're not, or you've never, or you won't, I'm going to tell you, anybody who's listening to this, if you're listening to it right now for the next 24 hours, you're going to be attuned to the words, I can't, I'm not, and I'll never. You will start hearing them in your vocabulary. As you hear those, write them down. What you're saying, you can't, you not, and you never. Then I'm going to tell you, call Josh and say, hey man, I've realized there's some things I'm saying I can't, because you've done it so long. Like Josh said, you have validated it. You found validation and you've made it normal. And I'm telling you, 98% of the people I work with, the normal they've settled for is not their normal. It was never meant to be their normal. And unless you challenge the normal you're living in, you'll never experience the extraordinary greatness, limitless, that you were called to. And so challenge your normal, call Josh and say, man, I think I got a limiting belief here. What do I do?
Yeah.
Because it's holding you back. There's so much greatness inside of all of us that we settle for. And the world is missing your greatness when you settle for believing a lie that is limiting your future.
Yeah, it's so good. Thank you for that, Rick. And yeah,
I'm serious. That's good.
Hey, so I'm a quote guy. I love quotes. One of my favorite quotes, and this is in relation to settling, for tolerating. You know, a lot of us we naturally gravitate towards what's comfortable. And you and I both know, Rick, that growth and comfort can't coexist. So if you're in this life that you're settling for, if you're settling for an underperforming shop environment or an underperforming team. One of my quotes that I love from Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, he says, beware the lollipop of mediocrity. Lick it once and you'll suck forever. And how much truth is there to that? It's like, you know what? You get a little taste and you just keep on going. And it's like, man, you are allowing yourself to live in this state of mediocrity.
Yeah. You're settling for something less than. And from my faith perspective, and I know you're a man of faith as well, right?
Yeah.
You're settling for something less than. I really want that you were born and created for. See, we've allowed our past to define our future. And our past was never meant to define our future. It was meant to inform it and refine it, but not define it. Right? And so when we let our past define our future, It's like looking through, if you wear physical glasses, if anyone wears glasses and you don't ever clean them, you can still see, but you're seeing through limited sight because the glasses are marred, scratched, and foggy.
Yeah.
And if you ever like taken those glasses and you've cleaned them and you put them on, you go, holy crud, I can see clearly. Right. That's why I tell. So people I said, put your hands in front of your face. I can see you, Josh. You're there. If people are watching this, they happen to see it. I don't know if they do or not, but when you put your hands in front of your face and look at your future in front of you, you can see it, but it's marked by these lines. Cleaning your glasses is recognizing the past that is defining your future. You clean it up. You replace it with the limitless future that's in front of you. Until you do that, you're always going to settle for something less.
Yeah. It's
right. So your future is a blank page. It hasn't been written yet. And if we clean our glasses, then you become the author and star of your story.
So
tomorrow, you're listening, whoever's listening to this in this moment, the next hour from now hasn't happened. Tomorrow hasn't happened. Next month hasn't happened. There's no storyline there. It's not preset. It's not predetermined. You're the author and star. Pick up the pen, stop letting the world and your past write your story, and start writing your own story.
Preach, Rick. Come on, man. You're bringing it today.
I mean, that's the challenge, right? There's so much freedom that we can have with, these aren't easy things. These are simple things, but this is not easy. So I don't want people to think, oh yeah, it's easy for you. No, I'm still working through this in areas, right? It's not easy, but I understand the pattern, the process, the framework to get there.
Yeah, you're right. And I love the fact that you're providing the resources. We have the resources. We're not always resourceful, but you're right. It's not easy. As a coach, I have my own coach. I have my own counselor. I see my counselor and my coach regularly throughout every single month because it's not easy. Even though I'm living this, coaching, training, preaching this, I still have my own mentors and people who are speaking truth into my life. I'll ask you, Rick, because you alluded to the fact that we can Google leadership and there's so many different avenues or information in relation to leadership. I'll just straight up ask you, what does leadership mean to you?
Sure. Great question. You know, one of my mentors is John Maxwell. And so he defines leadership as influence, nothing more, nothing less. That's how he talks about it. And so I pretty much align with that, except I add a little bit to it. For me, leadership is our ability to influence, and limitless leadership is our ability to influence and impact others towards positive growth or movement. Right. So I wanted to clarify, I don't want to just talk about any kind of leadership because we talked about that, the Hitler, the good and the bad leaders. I wanted to say leadership for me, I'm going to talk about it in a positive construct. It's the ability to influence and impact the people and world around us towards a positive outcome. Right. So that's what, and so leadership, and the other thing is leadership means to me, it's a posture, not a position or title. And I think that's really important. It is, we see leadership as authoritative, position, title, paycheck, corner office, car, you know, all that stuff. And here's the other one I drives me crazy. I don't know about you, Josh. Well, you're not a leader if no one's following you. And I'm like, just because people are following you, you might be playing follow the leader, but that doesn't make you a leader, right? It does technically if you say, because it's people behind me, but where are you leading them? Yeah. What kind of influence are you having on them? What does that really actually mean? Right? We're influencing and impacting people 24/7, whether we believe it or not, whether we realize it or not. So what kind of influence and impact are you having?
I like the fact that, you know, twice on this episode, you've used the word movement. And I think that's key for those listening. Leadership is influence. However, how are you influencing them to move? Like, what direction are you influencing them to move in? I think that's important because you're right. There's a lot of folks who may be leading in a way where it is kind of this infectious versus affect nature. You know, can we infect or can we affect? But movement, I think, is key. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective for me and the audience. But I'll ask you, one of the things I share in my own coaching is this concept of tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results. If I'm going to ask you to dissect my own line, tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results, what would you say to that? What does that mean to you?
I'd say tap into your unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results. That's what I'd say. You say it really well, man. I love it. I mean, in my language, what you're saying. So I think here's the thing. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to know how to do that.
And that's what I'm asking. I'm asking what does
That
this
would
look
be
like?
how do I, if I'm listening to this
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, man, it sounds great. Okay, I'm going to believe you. I've got this unrecognized potential in me, right? I'm going to believe there's more, because here's the thing. The reality is most people, it's most of their lives until they give up on it, have believed and feel like there's something more there to do and be. It's innate in all of us. Like, we want to be people of influence and impact. We want to make a difference. We want to have a legacy. I mean, that's innate in us at some level. And then life happens and we sometimes give that up and say, well, that's not really true, or this is all it's going to be. And we settle for that less than. So to tap into that unrecognized potential, you first got to believe that you have potential. Which means if you're not, you've got a limitation in your belief system about your own value and worth. And so you've got to be able to look at and go, what do I truly believe about myself, my value and my worth, what I bring to the table? And if you don't see value in yourself, no one else will. In fact, I don't know who said it. Maxwell might have quoted it, but no one's going to value you greater than the value you put on yourself.
That's good. That's
so
good.
You've got to first examine self and go, okay, what do I really believe about me? And be honest. If you go, man, I don't believe I can. I don't believe I'm very good at it. I've never been. Put it down, write it down and get it out there. Take the out of hiddenness and put it into the light and lay it there, but don't own it. Don't live there. Take it and look at it and go, it's okay. This is what I'm believing. Why do I believe that? Where does that come from, right? And challenge it. Challenge that belief and get around good people. Find a coach, a mentor. I really, you and I are both, I believe in coaches. I do not live my life without one. I've had coaches for 25, 26 years that have journeyed with me, that have helped me process and ask the questions I didn't know to ask myself. Yeah. Coaching isn't about telling people what to do or who they are. It's really all about seeing the greatness in them that you talk about, Josh, and calling it out of them. Everything we need is in us. We just need someone to ask us the right questions to get it out. And that's the difference between mentoring and leadership and all these things. True coaching, if you guys are looking for this and you want, is someone who's going to listen, ask powerful questions, and call out of you what they see and believe is there until you see it and believe it, and then help you build that roadmap to execute it, to get to that place. And that's what I love. And so that idea, tapping into the unrecognized potential, achieve limitless results, it is limitless. We think, well, what do you mean limitless? No, don't overthink this thing. Limitless is whatever that looks like for you to keep walking. There is no finite until I'm dead, right? And even then, my faith tells me there's an eternity. Right. So it is limitless. Limitless for me, and maybe it's the same for you. When I talk about limitless, born limitless, I'm looking at eternity, not the 70, 75 years we live here. There is this limitless life that we live, and we're passing through this one in an earthly body, and how we live here matters. But I believe we think that there's a ceiling on it. There's not. There's no ceiling on our lives except for the ceiling we place there.
That's right. Except for what we put on ourselves. It's the label that we put on ourselves.
Or we allow others to put on us by believing what other people say or don't say, or the trauma that happens to us that we didn't ask for and we didn't want. The unwanted, unasked for things that happen in our lives. Or sometimes we're the author of those unwanted and asked for things. And we've got to be honest about that. But those are the things that mark us. And here's the other thing I'll say with that. So to get to the unrecognized potential, to get to that limitless life, we've got to understand we're not going to stuff, we're going through it. Nothing in your life, no trauma, no brokenness, no roadblock, no obstacle is about something you're going to. I always end up in this place. No, you don't. If you end up there, it's because you've chosen to stay there. The mind shift has to be, I'm going through this thing. Yeah. And if I'm going through it, then there must be something on the other side.
Man, Rick, there's so many things that you say it's not to, it's through. I say we go through it to grow through it. It's like I'm so glad that we connected. I'll ask you, because you just talked about how you've had a coach for 25 plus years. I'm curious, what is the best advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
Man, there's been a couple. One that I'll give you two quick ones. One helped me in how I coach. And when I got in this relationship with this person over 25 years ago, and he's since gone to be with the Lord, I stayed in relationship with him this whole time, and it matured. But he said this, when we first got in relationship, he said, I want you to understand something. For me, this relationship looks like this. I will never tell you what to do, right? I will never be your Holy Spirit. I will never hold you accountable to what I think you should do. He says, this is what I'll do. He said, I will either agree with you I will tell you I'm not sure, and I'll pray about it, walk through it, ask questions, or I'll say, you know what, that doesn't align with you as I know you, your vision, your values. And then he said, here's the thing though. If you disagree with me and you go after something that I tell you that I don't see, he says that won't affect our relationship. He said that has nothing to do with our relationship. You are welcome to make any decision you want, right? My job is to help perfect your character, which means I am going to help you and say, yeah, that sounds right based on what I know about you. I'm not sure, let's dig in, or it doesn't fit everything you've told me. And my job is to make a decision from there. Whatever decision I make, he said, I will love you no matter what. And over 25 years, I disagreed with him multiple times. And he never, ever said, well, I told you. Never. It was never a part of it. It was always, what'd you learn? What are we going to do next time? So that was the one thing. The other piece that really, the biggest coaching thing that I learned was you need to stop thinking that this life and this world is about you. Get off the throne, right? And realize you are not the author and say all and be all of your life. The world does not revolve around you. And I thought, well, that's crazy. I don't think it does. And I would tell all of you, go, well, I know the world. Now, slow down before you say that and really think. We make the life around us, the world around us about us. That's why we get so offended. I believe we are to live an unoffendable life. And people say, well, how can you live on it? Because offense is a choice. And the only time we get offended is when we make ourselves the center of the issue. And I could tell you a story about that if we had time with my son, who during his time of challenges, he had 6 suicide attempts in 7 years. Wow. Right. And my journey with him is trying to be a dad and steward this process. I learned a lot. And that's where I learned this idea that all of his choices he made, and I'll just tell you this, if you don't mind, if it's okay. All the choices he made me, I left ministry, sold businesses, changed my career, changed my relationships, and became full-time dad, teacher, everything. His dysfunction that he was going through cost me so much. And I didn't think about it. And I made his dysfunction about me. I never said it. It was never an out. I would never have said, look what you're doing to me. But I was living in such a manner, responding him in such a manner. How could you? Do you not? This was not our plan. My wife and I are struggling. Your sister's not. I made that whole thing in his life. And I got wrecked by the Lord. Again, from a faith perspective, in a prayer time, he just hit me and he said, you're making your son's issue about me, but you've never asked me how I see your son.
Wow.
And I was like, time out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I realized I had been offended at his brokenness and his pain because it caused me to have to change my life. And so that coach that I was going through, he said, yeah, you need to understand life is not about you. It impacts you, but it is not about you. You are not the center of everything. And man, that wrestling with that changed everything for me. All the people that I don't agree with, the quote enemies in my life, I don't have any because I don't see it that way. They may not like me, but it's not an enemy because it's not about me.
Yeah. Rick, man, this is, you gave me goosebumps. This is incredible information. You're definitely going to be welcome back on the Limitless Leadership podcast. I feel like we could keep on going for another hour. But with respect to the listening audience, we're going to try to keep it, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. And I will ask you, where can our audience get in touch with Rick Torrison? And where can we buy your book at also? Yeah, man. So my book, Born Limitless, is on all the platforms. So maybe in the show notes or something you can put down there, but go to Amazon, wherever, Born Limitless. That's all you got, or my name, you'll find it. So it's there. And if you just want to connect in my world, Instagram is probably the easiest way to see me or my website, which is my name, rick@ricktorrison.com. But if you go into Instagram or my website, there's some free stuff I'm giving away, and just connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. One of the questions I ask, if you will Instagram message me, if you instant message me in Instagram with a limiting belief you have, I've got a simple framework I'll send you. So if they get this and go to my Instagram, which is Rick Torrison, and they just DM me, say, hey, here's a limiting belief I'm struggling with. I'll basically send you my framework. It's just what we talked about. It says, hey, here's a suggestion on how to reset that limiting belief. I'll give that to you. Would love for you to do that. But that's the way you can connect with me. Love it. And I will highly encourage that you reach out to Rick and connect with Rick, even if you're looking for a coach. I know, Rick, I appreciate you sharing earlier, hey, reach out to Josh, but I'm going to say not every coach works for everyone. So hey, interview both of us if you want. I mean, figure out who's a good fit, but I can tell you everything that Rick has shared with me in our few conversations that we've had has resonated incredibly well. I think you have a wealth of knowledge, wealth of information that anyone can benefit from. So, man, thanks again, Rick, for being on the Limitless Leadership podcast. Appreciate you, my friend.
Josh, I appreciate you, man. You're killing it. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to our future together.
Likewise. And thank you for tuning in to the Limitless Leadership podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.